Aaravos. This guy, there are some things the fandom can agree upon. First, he's hot, and his voice is the most melodic thing to ever exist. Oh yeah, and he's evil. Wait, seriously? People actually think that? In truth, Aaravos being evil is something that can go seriously wrong, and is probably not true. First, he is way too powerful. Aaravos is like the avatar of the Dragon Prince. He has mastered all 6 primal sources. This puts him at a power level significantly above the Dragon King, without some sort of counterbalance. When I mean that Aaravos is too powerful, I mean that he doesn't fall within the range in which you would expect him to fall. The ideal power level of a villain is threatening, but in the end, ultimately defeatable. The Fire Lord matches this up. Another avatar, like Roku, way too powerful. Fire Lord? He's definitely a threat, but he's also something that's defeatable. Everyone thinks and knows that Aang can beat him. Aaravos? Ha! No way. You can't beat the Avatar. No matter how hard you try, you just can't. Aaravos would be the singular most powerful being in the show. Unless Callum becomes the Avatar himself, there's no way he could ever beat Aaravos. Next, he doesn't work his way into the main plot organically. He works his way into Viren's subplot because he's in the mirror, and Viren's freaking obsessed over that thing. But Callum, as far as Aaravos is concerned, might as well not exist. So, how on earth would he become the main villain? Next, is it if he doesn't represent the things that we need to? Alright, let's look at a bit of pattern analysis. Alright? Let's take a show that we all love, or at least most of us love. Avatar: The Last Airbender. In Avatar, there is no villain you can kill to solve the world's problems. Queen Sarai. Anyways, the Fire Lord, the big baddie of the series, is not the immediate quick fix. He represents the real enemies of the show: divide, the Fire Nation's conquering, tyranny. But conquering him, defeating him, doesn't fix everything. It only allows for a new beginning. Aaravos is not this character, and we definitely need him to be. To put it more simply, Aaravos represents mystery, power, and a lot of other things, but not the real enemies that they have to face, they being Callum, Rayla, and shenanigans. Divide, racism, spitefulness, the endless cycle of hurting. Aaravos doesn't represent these things. There's another character that does, but we'll get to that later. Also, if he was to become the villain, if he ever was to get out of that mirror, he would become, well, really stupid powerful. So he can't get out of that mirror if he is a villain. I don't think any of us want to stop Aaravos from getting out of the mirror plot. Again. No one wants that kind of plot. They suck. Anyways, the next is that he doesn't give that much genuinely evil advice. Aaravos is probably someone who had radical ideas, and is probably used to controversy. I'm saying this because why else would he be in that mirror? So, he probably underthinks that Viren is like him. He's not, but Viren. So, when he said to Viren, this is just an example by the way, use fear, it wasn't his fault that Viren decided to take that as murder. I'm pretty sure Aaravos just wanted Viren to, use intimidation, use the threat as bargaining chip. And the final reason, to be more accurate, a continuation of this pattern, he's introduced too late. Villains from Avatar and previous encounters from this show, villains follow a pretty similar pattern. At first, they functionally don't exist. In Avatar, the Fire Lord is a ghost who basically doesn't even exist for the first, 2 seasons, 2.5 seasons. When I mean functionally doesn't exist, I mean functionally exists as a ghost. The Fire Lord is referenced a lot in Season 1 and Season 2. It's their expressed goal to beat him. Aaravos, although he's foreshadowed, doesn't fall under this ghost category. He isn't a ghost. The real glimmers of his existence are foreshadowed, but him? Like, specifically? No. He's not a ghost. He's a mystery, but not a ghost. The villain of the show should be a ghost. There's a character who matches every bit of ideal villain I've been talking about, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, he's introduced, officially 100% introduced in the end of the second season. It's simply too late. Again, there's another character who matches up with this description. We'll talk about that later. When Viren is researching Aaravos, he comes across this poem that's written in Arabic. It's about Ilarion. There are translations online if you want to go look. So, Ilarion would have to be Aaravos' weakness. Let's take a quick look at the poem and see what we can find out about her, and how this connects to Aaravos. First, Ilarion is very, very, very clearly human. Well, she, first of all. Girl, relationship, Aaravos, and child. Alright, those are the 100% guaranteed things. Now, speculation. I think there are 3 main possibilities for Ilarion. The first is Star Elf. She could be a Star Elf, or another type of elf. There is absolutely no way to support this. Yes, she would be alive in the modern day, but it mentions with human might, and I don't know about you, but Aaravos is definitely not human. So she'd have to be in some way human. Human would be interesting, because if his weakness is a human, more attachment to humans seems, hey, look, motive. There's just one really big problem with that. It means Ilarion would be dead. Aaravos was trapped in that mirror a long time ago, longer than human lifespans. And humans don't live that long, unless she was anged, but I don't think, well, do we really want that? I mean, it's possible, and I guess it could be interesting, but it's not the most interesting option. The most interesting option would be an option that has all the benefits of being a Star Elf and all the benefits of being human. Wait a minute. There is an option that exists. Ilarion could be a half-elf. Here's why that would be good. A meta. Ilarion could represent the bond, the possibility for unification between Xadia and humans. After all, a half-elf daughter of Aaravos. Well, then you have a clear reason for everything, really. Why Aaravos was locked in that mirror. Well, considering the extremely racist nature of elves, him fathering a half-elf child could definitely be enough to trap him in that mirror. Also, Ilarion being a child is so heavily referenced, and her being human is called out a significant amount. But she's also prominent. She's one of the first things that come up when you search for Aaravos. If she was just a normal human, well, then she wouldn't be important. She would be a footnote in history, even if she was a human apprentice. It would be Aaravos was captured by using his human apprentice. Unless she was the person who discovered dark magic, which she's not, because that's a guy, not a girl. Anyways, Ilarion, being a half-elf, could definitely still be alive, and she could help Callum, because Callum wants everyone to be equal, and Ilarion most probably wants that too. Ilarion, who is not stuck in the mirror, would have a much easier way of getting into the plot, and therefore getting Aaravos involved. And, well, a half-elf would be super interesting. And another argument strengthening her as a half-elf is the line, a frightened foundling, describing Ilarion as a foundling. What is a foundling? foundling means bastard, in the most literal connotation of the word. Basically, her parents are illegitimate. Now, in this world, what would consider an illegitimate parents? Her birth is illegitimate. A union between an elf and a human, maybe? Those would definitely be considered illegitimate parents and an illegitimate birth. You might have noticed that earlier I mentioned a mystery character that matches the pattern and the things we need necessary for a true villain. Who is it? The answer? The Dragon Queen. Hold with me for a moment and listen to my explanation. First, let's look at the avatar pattern. In the beginning, she functionally doesn't exist. She's a ghost, referenced heavily since the beginning, but never makes an appearance until when she actually needs to make an appearance. Check. Next, she represents the things we need her to. She's spiteful enough to send assassins over, continuing the circle of hurt. She's most likely racist and doesn't like humans. She represents divide, racism, and spitefulness. Potentially, of course, if this is the direction the creators wish to take her. Next, her power. Being the Dragon Queen, one must expect her to be powerful, but not omnipotent. The Dragon King was beaten. The Dragon Queen would also have a possibility to be beaten. She wouldn't be insurmountable, but she would be a threat. She has the perfect power level to become a main villain. A threat, but ultimately defeatable. The next is she's already naturally works her way into the story. The stated goal is get egg / baby dragon to queen. Again, this also matches up with the overall pattern of villains. Stated goal is something involving her, even if she's painted in more of a heroic light. She also has a reason to not like humans because they killed her husband. And her immediately lashing out at Callum for the crime of being a human matches a lot of what Zadia thinks, that being human is in some way a crime. Finally, it makes a more interesting story. Having the world just fall around you, Rayla, who probably worships this being, having to come to terms that she's not perfect, she's evil, she's opposing, she wants this war, she wants revenge, she wants to continue the cycle of suffering. This, combined together, means that she is a more interesting villain, a more likely villain. She's spiteful enough to send assassins after people. She's powerful enough to pose a threat, and she just makes more sense as a villain than Aaravos. And a more interesting villain. Aaravos has character potential that can better be used elsewhere. And her as a villain is an excellent twist. In conclusion, casting Aaravos as the main villain would disrupt the natural flow of the plot, rob the show of an opportunity for some truly great character development, and strip the show of a chance to present a unique conflict in the struggle surrounding the half-elf Ilarion and the Dragon Queen.